the RBA. You can't believe them. They said rates wouldn't move until 2024 and then they just went bang.
Your self-funded retirees are the ones that are going to be punished once the interest rates start decreasing, because the first thing that takes a hit is your term deposits. The worst thing you can do is have your finance broker not communicate with your real estate agent. I find that horrible experience. Hello and welcome to another episode of From Wider Wealth. In today's episode, we will be discussing three key topics. The first thing is current market trends. Second thing would be challenges in the industry. And the third thing would be advice for buyers and sellers in a tough market that we're currently in. I welcome to the right of me, the director of the Property Co Group, Christopher Igoe. Thank you, Christopher, for joining us.
Gab. Appreciate it.
And our finance broker, or editor at large, Andrew Willis. How you going, Andrew?
How are we?
I'm not too bad, thank you. Chris, there's some hot topics coming out, particularly in the last 24 hours with the Reserve Bank. I think, Andrew, you were quoting this earlier this morning. They've decreased rates by
50 basis points.
Yeah. So safe to say this topic is very interesting, seeing that we're always usually a little bit behind the market trend of the US. So, Christopher, what are the current trends you're seeing in the market today with Australian real estate, and how are they influencing buyers and sellers?
Yeah, it's a good question, Gab. I guess most of what we see at the coal front is either supply and demand or interest rates, right? So supply has probably been less than what we've seen over the last couple of years. I think that's been in a softening market. That's what's held up prices probably since the start of the year, and the uncertainty around rates. I think the RBA was always floating with the idea that the rates were going to go up, and everyone was just in a bit of a holding pattern. But now, which is probably the most exciting news over the next last 24 hours around those rates, and I think everyone was predicting probably the start of next year rates were going to probably seem to come down. So a lot was sort of sitting on their hands, but of just the last couple of days, a couple of exchanges that we've had, seems a lot more confidence of that we're heading in the right direction. We're also seeing, obviously, I think the last of, and you guys are at the coalface on the rates, but probably the last of the sort of 2% fixed rates coming up. We've seen a few of those mums and dads and assisted sort of purchases either coming up for rent or coming up for sale when they jumped in at 2%. Now they're at, circa early sixes. So there's been a bit of pressure in that side of the market. But across sort of, I guess, Greater Sydney, we're heading mostly between about 1 and 3 million. So we're kind of that middle market, trade up, trade down. But that's been, moving along pretty well.
It's interesting you say that. Andrew, I think you can jump in on this one as well. What we're seeing from the finance side of things are a lot of questions around when are rates going down?
Yeah. We don't have a crystal ball.
No, we don't. Neither do
we can
the
make our
economists.
predictions, but who knows with the RBA. You can't believe them. They said rates wouldn't move until 2024 and then they just went bang.
Yeah, and they've stuck on that decision as well.
They just run their own race.
Well, that's a topic for another day. But no, you're absolutely right. It's just, Chris, and I guess what we're seeing is the inconsistency from decision making. So we're seeing a lot of owner-occupiers who bought in the 2% rates, who are now going, our fixed rates are gone up, are finished. We're going to the variable rate. Hey, Andrew, we're going to move in with mum and dad.
Yeah.
We're going to try and save money, rent out our house because we don't feel there's an option. We need to ride this out. This is the only way we can ride it out. Are you seeing those trends when people are looking at selling, or what are you seeing from that?
Yeah, that's kind of the suggestion, and along with John, when we go out and a lot of time meet with these guys about, for us as directors, we're not sort of in one camp or the other. It's what's going to be better for the guys and girls sort of longer term. So if they can hold, for sure. If they can't, they do need to release the property. We haven't kind of seen prices go backwards, so someone could generally get out for sort of the same.
And that's a very valid point, that prices haven't gone back.
Yeah.
I mean, we do talk about an interest rate crisis and how it's a crunch. But prices haven't gone back.
No, they've held steady. So a lot of the time it might be, well, I paid this, I'm into the stamp duty, your cost, that kind of thing. Can you get at me as a negative cost kind of thing, or an even cost? So that's been a challenge for just people working out where they are in terms of finances. But I think first step, they were to, as you said, move back in, mum and dad, try to hold on to it, ride it out, see the rates hopefully come down in the next sort of 12 months and make life a little bit easier. That's the preference for sure.
Look, I think there's going to be a lot of movement in the market post-Christmas. We're always 6 months behind the US with decision-making. They really set the trend. And then by the time that comes into roll, the RBA meets up in November, and then they meet up again in February. So it'd be interesting to see what happens. So when it's decision-making in selling, we know the buying, people want to get in before the rates crash because they don't know what the effect it's going to have.
Yeah, they don't know if the prices are going to boom, borrowing capacity increases. Obviously, the more you can borrow, the higher the price of the house, but
it's the unknown.
Yeah. I think a lot too, what we've seen over the years when the rates started to come down, it wasn't until there was like 3 consecutive drops, right? So the first one, and as a seller, you try to perfectly time out of the market, but it's not always the case. But and it's also something to look at if you're transitioning, right? What are you buying for? What are you selling for? Are you up trading if that market gets away from you further? So it might be a better time to go sooner. So there's a lot of strategies in and around that, but I think it'll be positive when it does come down, but probably won't change life too much for people until we see that, potentially come off 1% or 2% if that's, sort of the objective of RBA.
I guess the other thing as well is deposits. Just because you can borrow an extra 200,000-300,000 doesn't mean your deposit has increased to be able to purchase that property.
Yeah, you're right.
So because inflation's up, everything's up, people have been dipping into their savings. So if the money out there in people's accounts has gone down, let's just say $1 million property, if you want the 20%, let's just say 260,000. If it goes up to 1.1, you're going to need that extra 20, 30 grand, which you might not have. So then you're paying mortgage insurance.
Correct.
So you got to look, I guess you got to look at that as well, in terms of if people want to pay the mortgage insurance or not. A higher rate once you go over the 80%. It's not just, I can borrow extra money. It's all other factors as well, I guess.
I think the mortgage insurance side of things does dictate to some degree a person who's in the buying market. It'll be interesting to see what the roll-on effect is, because also with what people don't look at, which they should, is once your self-funded retirees are the ones that are going to be punished once the interest rates start decreasing, because the first thing that takes a hit is your term deposits.
Correct. They're already down.
They've
already cut.
They're starting to slowly creep down. Fixed rates are creeping down. And I'm keen to see, you've got a lot of experience in the industry. You've probably seen the closing in on about 3 recessions. Do you find the market influencing the buyers and sellers changed? If you look at our last recession we had, do you see the thought process changing, or is it just similar, the same?
I think pretty similar. I think, those who will sit on the fence always will, right? Those who want to make a move. And generally there's a few factors around that, whether that's, the family's growing or the family's decreasing or the kids are moving out or divorce, or just want to, we're finding a lot more people just wanting to really downsize and doing a bit more travel and working out, you only live once and let's actually, attack life and do some other things.
I think COVID changed people's perspective. I hate using that word, but COVID changed people's perspective whereby I don't have to travel 45 minutes to get to work. We were only talking about this morning.
Yeah, that's right.
I can sit at home and do my work, but obviously the employer has to have that agreement. So the decision making is also a big part to play, where if you've got the downsizing side, right? If you've got a property that's valued at $1 million and you've sold it at $1 million, but you're got a minimal mortgage, we're talking about this morning, and you move up to the coast and purchase a property for half the value but you got the lifestyle. So the lifestyle change.
100%. And I think that's what a lot of people are going for. It's either about the family or the longer term lifestyle. But we see it a lot, where people are downsizing, getting out of the homes, don't really need them anymore, going to apartments, more condensed living. But then, they lock up and go, they're traveling, they're getting away, or, if they've moved up the coast. So
I noticed you sold the property. It was a 2-bedder, don't quote me, 3-bedder, could have been a 2-bedder. No garage, and it's a unit.
Oh yeah, in Cronulla.
I found that very interesting, purely due to people like to have their cars parked. What's the thought process of somebody like that? Again, we're talking about influencing buyers, being influenced by properties they're looking at. What was the thought process from your perspective on that buyer for that property?
Charity lived in Cronulla, so I love the lifestyle. It's a couple 100 metres from the beach. There's ample parking on the street. Obviously, through summer, it's going to get a lot busier through there, so there's no guarantees. There are some properties in the block that do have parking and garages, so it was one of the few without.
Okay.
But yeah, it's say $660,000 for a 1-bedroom, no parking. Sure, shared access kind of balcony as well. So it's all about lifestyle there, right? You're 500, 600 metres down to Cronulla Mall, the beach is right there.
And the train station is down the road.
Everything's there. You
mall.
don't necessarily need to have a car. A lot of people now with the electronic bikes and scooters and that kind of thing. So.
The e-bikes.
Yeah, that's
the
right.
E-scooters.
Yeah.
You see them darting around.
Everywhere, every second.
So I guess our second part from, your current market trends, I think you touched on a lot there. Challenges in the industry. We're always talking about the challenges buyers and sellers face in their decision making. But as a real estate agent, and you're a seasoned real estate agent, what are the main challenges in the real estate sector, which is facing Australia, and how are you adapting to overcome them?
So I think the main thing has been shortage of stock, right? So people are scared to release their home without having something to go to, especially if they're downsizing, right? You don't want to necessarily be in your home for 20, 30, 40 years, not have a home in between, and then you're double moving, grabbing a rental, whatever it may be. So you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? You sell first, you know what you've got to spend, and then you've got to find something, hopefully within 6, 12, 16 weeks, something like that. Or you're buying first, making sure you've got the location sorted, and then at not the mercy of the market, but a controllable space where you've got to have a pretty mathematical thought process around the property that you're selling, and make sure that's not sort of overdone. So then you've got to balance, the books, and make sure that the trade's going to work. It's usually easier on the trade down, that if you're selling at 3.5 and buying at 1.5, if it's 50 or 100 grand either which way, it's not as detrimental, but probably a little bit harder going up the scale if you're banking on that, extra 100 grand or 200 grand to kind of get you to the next property. So that's probably been the tough thing in the last 6 months, I would say, just with shortage of stock. So any good properties coming to the market, if they're well priced, they will go. We just had one last night where it's 3 weeks into an auction campaign. Interest rose from 1.5 to 1.6 to 1.7. We sold it last night for 1.760. So that's in that good little middle market that we work in, that, and that buyer was working with a buyer's agent. So we're seeing buyer's agents becoming a little bit more prevalent in the industry, just taking the emotion out of the deal. They know what they're doing. They're getting straight to the point. The buyers are prepped. They've got their finance. The solicitors are on call. We exchanged that contract, I think, within about 3 or 4 hours of the agreement getting done. So that's giving a lot of people a step up as well.
Have you seen, you did touch on it, because we've seen buyer's agents coming to prominence probably in the last 3 to 5, 6 months. And I put it down to, you don't know what you don't know.
Yep.
And a lot of our clientele or the market dictates that a lot of people are time poor, and they're happy to let go of that few $1,000s, whatever it costs to have a buyer's agent, to go out there and try and snap up a property for them.
Yep.
Have you seen more buyer's agents entering the market?
For sure. I think
being more proactive?
Yeah, I would say the last probably 12 to 24 months, realistically, it was kind of an unknown thing, right? It was kind of the done thing in the US, and then more predominantly in the eastern suburbs. And we're seeing that sort of more across Sydney now. And I think people are becoming a lot more aware of it in terms of that access and getting in. And it is off markets and knowing the agents and getting through properties before they hit the market as well. So I think there's a great place for those guys and girls that are doing that. And a lot of the trends we're seeing, especially down in our southern region as well, around the southern Shire St George area, that a lot of people are coming from the east as well. So they're in the know, they know what happens there. The inner west, a lot more prevalent. So
In the West, a little bit behind the 8 ball when it comes
Yeah.
when it comes to buyers agents.
Yeah.
I've never had a buyer's agent go, my client's looking for something in the West.
Yeah.
It's always, if there's a buyer's agent involved, it's out of state. Do you see?
Yeah, majority of the time, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're seeing it a little bit, I think, just because of the travel time too. Like if someone's coming from the east down for a Saturday and then they've got young kids, you got till probably lunchtime before the kids start going off. So they've got limited time to come down. So when a good property comes on and it's quick, whether it's on or off the market, they want to be there quick. So really probably time pause the biggest thing, and why they've probably, I guess come through the industry and doing a lot more, especially in the markets that we work.
Interesting. Who would have thought 20 odd years ago, getting into the industry and saying a buyer's agent will go out there. And I've seen firsthand what buyer's agents can do. And they work wonders. We've got clients, when we say to you, speak to a buyer's agent, and you go, oh, I don't want to pay the fee. Why wouldn't you? I mean, if you're securing a site, and we've had clients secure sites interstate, and they've managed to get an extra $150 to $200 a week in rental because the yield is so high.
Yeah, that's right. You don't have to do the research.
No.
That's what you're paying them for. They do all the research. They know the areas. They go, this is going in, whether it be a Woolworths or Costco or whatever. So it also depends what you're looking for as well. If you're looking for growth, they're going to have to do this research. If you're looking for a higher yield, then they can find that for you. You're not having to sit there for hours looking at realestate.com. If it's for an investment property, obviously.
Of course.
Owner occupied, probably a bit different. You're going to be more want to be more hands-on, I guess.
Yeah.
Because it's not just a number. It's not about percentages at that point.
They don't have a particular property to sell.
Yeah.
They out there to try and, look, they got to make a living for themselves as well, but they have such a benefit to people, and what they offer is far greater than the fee. That's...
Yeah, correct. You might make that back in the first 6 to 12 months, depending on the property.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's worth their weight in gold, I guess.
But I guess challenges in the industry don't only come down to your sector being challenged by potential purchasers, landlords, tenants, whatever it may be. You're also up against new age ankle socks, ankle pants trend.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, your mind, your way of thinking is, if I know you well enough, Chris, and I've seen you in action, is hustle, 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 and you'll be rewarded.
For sure.
But have you noticed that the new age agents coming in want to hustle?
It's select, right? It's super hard. There's depends where you come from. I sort of say in that sort of I'm 37, so we're sort of we're brought up on the work as generally mum and dad would be working and whatnot, and long hours and all that kind of thing. So there's definitely a change in the newer generation, and that as a business owner, that's something we all adapt to because it's a little bit different, not like we're used to and how we came through. So I think businesses are changing around that, and definitely our mindset of we have quite a young team as well, a lot of 19 to 25 year olds. So that's the future of the business too, right? So you've got to kind of go with the waves and how they go. But I think as any business, hustle and hard work, that's it. And it's a long-term game, same in your business, right? So miracles don't happen overnight.
I just find the real estate agents are splashed everywhere, whereas brokers work quietly. You can go out and advertise yourself, don't get me wrong, but a lot of the brokers stay in the back end and put the deal together, get it happening, but then it's the agents who are promoting themselves, and it's not a negative thing at all.
It's their face, isn't it?
Correct. I mean, I listened to Tom Panos rant, and I shouldn't call it a rant. He speaks truth, as they say in this day and age. He spits facts. And he's just going, you're not a real estate agent because you wear a Rolex. You've earned that Rolex, right? I'm a finance broker. I wear a G-Shock watch. Does that make me any less of a hustler? So I like listening to his Sunday afternoon or Saturday afternoon when he posts them. I listen to them. But that's the question I was just asking there. Because if you're going up against an agent in a tough market, let's be honest, it's a tough market, you're at X% the charge, and they're going, but Joe Blogg down the road is at less than you.
Yeah.
Is there other challenges you face, I guess?
Yeah, it does come up. I guess, you look at probably 10 years ago, fees were probably 0.5% higher than they are now, but obviously you've had, growth of property prices too. So that kind of evens itself out. But that's always going to be in any industry, right? That someone's going to offer less. I love looking at Instagram, like the memes of the guy that was charging less and the wall's fallen over or whatever it may be. So there's always someone out there, but I guess in terms of real estate, a lot of the time it's a lot of our businesses referral now. It's kind of like runs on the board, but there's always someone new coming after you, and that's what keeps things, I think, exciting, that we've got to all, look at a different way to kind of skin a cat and, better, quicker, faster ways to get to business. So
Let's be frank. If there was a room full of brokers and a room full of real estate agents, who would be wearing ankle socks and ankle...
brokers for sure.
Just depends. I mean, look at Ganami, he's the ankle sock type of guy, but I guess, but they got to promote themselves. Like they're the face of selling that property, I guess. So they got to be a lot more well presented, better looking than us do.
I think you got to be comfortable in your skin. Do you know what I mean? Like we're all brought up on the suit and tie, right? Like that's changed a lot these days. Obviously, here we're in Apollo in your studio, but I think
suits you better, Chris. Wearing.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And we say the same to our guys. So there's not a lot of guys that wear ties in our office, that kind of thing. Yeah. It's kind of, you need to have your own confidence and be, happy who you are, and then that'll obviously, percolate over to the client.
Yeah,
I guess I wouldn't imagine you see a lot of it, but probably more than say 10, 15 years ago. That online, sort of, you can do a market valuation, I guess, whatever you call it.
Yeah.
Sort of like a desktop valve, sort of,
you're talking about your appraisal.
You don't actually have to go to the client and sit with the client. You can send them a bunch of information, say this is what your property's worth.
I mean, but your best business practice.
If they're at work, they don't have time to sit down for an hour with an agent.
Yeah.
You can just give them all the information. Whereas I say, 15 years ago, you probably couldn't do that.
No, 100%. It's definitely changed. And I think through going back to your COVID point, like we were doing, FaceTime valuations, right? Yeah. And then it would be a meet, or we'd just send you the paperwork. And then there was a lot less face-to-face. I love, old school face-to-face, right? But it has become a little bit easier. But definitely sitting down with someone going to see the home, just so much easier in terms of getting a perspective on what's happening. But you're right, like data's a lot more available now. I think the sellers and the buyers are a lot more informed on what's happening with, a lot of them access platforms like RP data and that kind of thing. So
the Daily Telegraph.
Yeah, 100%.
Local newspaper.
It's a data economy.
How great was that? These days you're sitting like that. Back then you'd be sitting like this.
Yeah.
Very
different.
You'd want to get through your paper. But yeah, look, it's just interesting. I know that industry has challenges with its ever-changing environment, but it also, you'd want a relationship with your agent. You want your agent to have the ability to have, and I use the word trust, but I more put it down to value. If you have value add from your agent, then the business is forever with you. But when you have clients who, property with, real estate agent A and other property with real estate agent B and property C being sold by the other real estate agent, it tends to, the value is not there, obviously.
Yeah, I think, look, we all want clients for life, right? That's the long-term goal, and to try to keep everything in-house. It's not always a perfect plan, of course, but I think, we all know that, it's a long-term game, right? Yeah. I'm coming up to 17 years now. You've just got to keep providing value, and, it's keep in touch, right?
Key advice to buyers and sellers. What would be your key advice to first-time home buyers and investors to look to enter the market?
I think getting in the market's probably, speaking to you guys, right? Getting prepared first, because I think from what we're seeing at the coalface is that the good properties are going quick, right? Auctions kind of become a bit of a line in the sand a lot when you've got the interest and everyone's around a similar price point pushing through to auction. We're finding a lot more standout buyers because they have been through the process, maybe missed out before, and that's exactly what happened this week with the property that we sold last night. That just, we had 3 people been to multiple auctions, missed out, just wanted to run the gun early, and we went with that momentum just to make sure we continued and got to a terrific price for the seller. So, but that buyer, pre-approved, had the buyer's agent on hand, had the solicitor in the pocket ready to go. You've got to have a great team around you. I think that's the biggest thing.
Well, that's an organised buyer.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why, they came out on top, right? Where others are trying to work out prices, they've got to go back to the broker, got to get the solicitor, dealing with another one at the moment. They've been a couple of days waiting for the solicitor to pick up the file to have a look at it. So you've got to make sure that you've got a really, really great team. And I think, having good contact with agents as well, from the buyer's agent, like they'll email every week, I've got a client looking for this. And then especially from the buyers too, just checking in with the agents as much as we're checking in with you too. Like if things are changing in terms of budget or whatnot, just so we're kind of aware. So it's a communication sport. That's what we're all playing, right?
But I've heard you multiple times. You would probably be in a position where you're helping second and third generation families find their first home or enter into the investment market. Would you not be doing that now after 17 years?
Yeah, for sure. It was kind of funny at a networking organisation I'm a part of. Our electrician in there, funnily enough, the IT guy that's just come in, I'd sold his property to him, and they both never knew each other before. And just as they've kind of joined, I'm like, I sold your place to you. And then that started the connection. So for sure, we are down there. And, when I was first 20, when I got in, it was apartments and then villas and townhouses, now houses. And we do a lot more duplex and sort of stepping into some higher end stuff now. So it's definitely a journey with them as they're kind of getting through their life cycle as well.
I think it's important as part of the advice for buyers and sellers from our perspective as brokers is link yourself in with a team. The worst thing you can do is have your finance broker not communicate with your real estate agent. I find that horrible experience. Once you've linked in your real estate agent and your finance broker, it makes life easier. In my 22 years in the industry, I've found a lot of people want convenience now. They want to come into the one office and they just want to get their business done.
Yeah.
And they want to make it quick. They don't want to muck around. Have you've been in the industry a short time, a short period, but you've learned a lot in that short period. I mean, you came through the midst of the pandemic, as much as I hate discussing that, but you've had to learn adapt immediately.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah,
How when you've linked in with a real estate agent, it makes your life easier.
100%.
Because you're flipping your pre-approvals quicker and you're getting the clients into their home sooner.
If you do it as more as a one-stop shop, like where everything's there, we got connections, we got financial advisors, conveyancers that we work with, and it just flows a lot more smoothly
and makes life so much
than
easier.
when they're going here, there, and everywhere, and you're having to chase, and you've never spoken to that conveyancer before. It's just the process is so much smoother and quicker when it's just the one-stop shop.
And we also found that when we have our brokers head out to open homes, when we work in collaboration and we go out to open homes, I learned many years ago, I was told by a real estate agent, I'm here to sell real estate, I'm not here to sell finance. So when I'm speaking to at meetings and so forth, talking to real estate agents, I always tell them that now. I always say, you sell the homes, don't sell the finance. The worst thing you can do is have somebody sell you finance when you're trying to inspect the home.
Yeah, I think everyone's got their lane. It's nice to have an introduction and someone that they know. And a lot of the time now, like I meet clients and they're just like, they may have not transacted for 10, 20 years. And they say, who do we use? And we've got some great partners that we work with. So that's a lot easier. We know how they work. We know how that process is going to go for the client. There's a lot of trust in that. And it makes it easier. They don't need to. Someone said to me the other day, I'll get a pest and building inspector. I'll just go onto Google, right? I'm like, that's the worst thing ever. I'm like, these are the people that do it in our area, right? So and do it really well. So that's a nice position for us to be able to refer some great partners for sure.
Christopher, we thank you for your time. As always, it's a pleasure.
Thanks for having me,
Mr. Willis.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcast for more content.